So when Silverdust Blaze VBT08 released in Japanese, a lot of people were looking at the set and kind of thinking like, wow, this feels like a big power level increase, or like kind of at least similar power level, but a little bit above of that of the next stage. And one of the decks that especially stood out from those was Messiah's, because of just how explosive their kind of like potential big turns could actually be. Now, so I often like to show off how good decks are, you know, by doing like a deck profile or like some kind of feature, you know, showing the deck list and then maybe playing some games. But today, you know, there's a lot of that already out there. There's tournament footage, you know, from people in Japan. You know, there's Japanese YouTubers showing it off in gameplay in general, and then also Yellow Card Vanguard already did a video talking about like all the new Link Joker cards and how good they are and how well they fit into Messiah. So I recommend watching that too, because it's a good resource if you're trying to get into the deck. But I wanted to today talk about a very simple thing, which is just what makes this deck good. Like, why was it so dominant when the set came out? And even now, we're in VBT09, sorry, as I'm recording this, and, you know, going into VBT 10 pretty soon, and it feels like the deck is still going to be seen as one of the consistently best decks. So not necessarily the best, like, upper echelon, but you could still, like, go to a tournament and play Messiahs, or run into a Messiah player at top tables pretty easily because of how good it is. So for Messiahs, of course, you know, the main addition to the deck was the Alter Ego Messiah. Alter Ego Messiah is the new grade 3 that was added as a VR, and at first people were like, oh, the harmonic seems better, I think. You know, people were really thinking that, myself included. It was kind of just like, looking at it and I was like, how is this really that good? You know, because like, oh, you don't get the extra, like all the extra bonuses from harmonics and all that stuff, you know. So like it's a bit outdated of a viewpoint, but you know, it's good to quote it in retrospect. So Alter Ego does two important things. First things first is that it brings back your cards from the drop zone as locked cards, which means that you can call some special cards out of there that you normally wouldn't be able to call from hand. And on top of that, it means that, you know, anything that poofs from your field or from your hand can be brought back. There's very few things like, unless you're playing as Vanquisher, which is still very good, by the way, still one of the best standard decks, even though it hasn't really been popping up in the tier list, or like in the meta analysis that we do. I still really think that Vanquisher is one of the best decks. But that first skill already is something big, you know. It's the ability to keep recycling your pieces and, you know, just carefully playing out, carefully guarding with your stuff too, to make sure that that one Soul Blast will net you as much advantage as possible. Now the second skill is of course what kind of carries the whole deck in a way, or at least like backs up everything that it's going for, which is simply on attack, you unlock any number of locked cards, and any unlocked card gets plus 10k power. So it's very simple. It's super simple because all it does is on attack unlock stuff. But unlocking stuff means restanding stuff. So you're getting multi-attacks. And this was kind of, this set really, it wasn't so much in the next stage, because the next stage had only one real multi-attacking deck, which was next stage itself as a card, and Altmile didn't really do it, Asha definitely didn't do it, and so this like, let's just slap multi-attack on everything, mostly started from here. So it was Messiah's just going like, we can do 5 attacks, that's fine, it's easy. So how exactly, of course, I mean, this card itself already shows you those multi-attacks, because as long as you have any attacker that locks itself after battle, you will be able to unlock it after that to attack with it again. So therefore, you get 5 swings. Now, which cards are giving us those 5 swings? So I'm really glad you asked, because we have Volkov, who is a grade 4 in the main deck. So for those of you 0 players, this might be like, whoa, 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 hold on. Don't, like, literally don't fret, let me read this card. So he cannot be ridden, you cannot ride him, and if you call him normally, whether it's from deck or from hand or from drop zone, not as a locked card, but normally call him from any location, he instantly retires. But if you call him as a locked card from the Alter Ego skill, then you don't have to retire him, because he comes in as locked. And when you unlock him, it's not counted as a call, you know, it's already there, it was already placed, it's just unlocked. But his skill, the reason why you can multi-attack with him is that at the end of the battle that he attacked the Vanguard, you lock him and give another unit plus 10k. Keep in mind he's 30k power, so this dude is swinging around with 30k, unboosted by the way, so it's already a massive attack that just attacks at least twice per turn, as long as you're sitting on a Messiah Vanguard. So this is a really, really strong attacker for the deck, and for the remaining of this video, a lot of people like to refer to him as Volko. I will refer to him as Volkswagen. I think that, you know, it's literally the same thing. But it's a really, really strong card. It's literally a car just running you over as you try to play against it. Now, another card that enables multi-attacks is the card that basically made me build this deck in general in Standard, is Lady Fencer of Matter Transmission. So she says when she attacks, she gets 5k if your Vanguard has Messiah in its name, and at the end of the battle you lock her. So her attack is much weaker, it's only 15, you know, if you boost it it's bigger, but sometimes you want to keep that boost because of, you know, the fact that she's going to attack again, so you might want to make her bigger because, you know, she's gonna attack again. But this is a free, you know, both of them are free, by the way. You don't need to like Counterblast or Soul Blast. They're both free, just lock themselves after attacking. So those two used in conjunction equal 5 attacks. So that's already great. You know, and Volko, he gives us extra power, so that's also very nice. But, you know, what if you don't want, like, let's say you just have that Volko in hand and you need to somehow get it out there. Then you're gonna use your Gasterer. I think it was called Gaster at first from the Japanese translation, but his real name is Gasterer. So this is a grade 2 that literally does, at the end of the battle, attack the Vanguard, -1, put a card from hand on rearguard circle as a locked card, and draw a card. So you can literally take that Volko, slam it on the rear, and there you go. You can even like call it to the back row. You don't have to call it to the front row, just so you can use it next turn. And even if your opponent attacks into it, it's a 30k body, by the way, you can still just recall it from the alter ego next turn. So that's also pretty great. It's also pretty damn great. Now, of course, you know, this is just like, this is also technically a multi-attacker in a way, because if you don't have Volko and Lady Fencer, you can still use Gaster to call a locked card somewhere to still restand it with the alter ego. So that's an important point to keep in mind. Now, another thing is that since alter ego calls your stuff as locked, you know, even if it's there's a Volko in your drop zone that you call out of alter ego, it's called as a locked card, so you don't get that multi-attack out of it. So you just get, you know, you just unlock them on attack, but you still get 3 attacks that turn. So what you need then is the order. The order allows you to unlock a card during your main phase, and so you basically get to just call out the Volko from alter ego Messiah, and then basically just unlock it with the order. Easy. And then it's like, because this deck is so piece reliant, I need to make that point again, that part of the reason why it's slipping in these like meta-analyses in the pie charts is that this deck is very piece reliant. You know, you're seeing it now, right? You need like your order, you need the Volko, you need the Lady Fencer, you need the grade 3 Searcher, you need like all these things, right, that you need to draw into. So we have cards like Van Manen that basically say, oh, when I get unlocked, you draw a card. So it's like, you just basically try to play that as a locked card as early as possible, and you're basically getting more cards, which is great. So that's obviously very, very appreciated. And now there's also 2 cards in the grade 1 slot that kind of are played depending on the player, really, which is either Manipulator of the Void or Destiny Dealer. So Destiny Dealer, when ridden, calls the top card of your deck as a locked card. So if you high roll, you basically get to call the Volko instantly on turn 1, which is insane because you can use it already next turn. Or you can basically also like call it to Soul Blast 1 and call the top card of your deck as well. Now Manipulator does a bit differently. So Manipulator is a common from the set, and she basically, if our attack hits or if the attack she boosted hits, you can basically lock a card from hand. So it's not RNG, you know, it's not the top card of your deck. You can reliably exert hit pressure and also call that Volko or any other card really, or the Van Manen, for example, from your hand, and then unlock it the same turn at the end of turn and draw extra cards. So not forgetting the Manipulator herself also draws you cards. So, you know, Destiny Dealer only calls you stuff, whereas this has hit pressure, has the lock from hand, and also gives it back by drawing 1. So it's technically not an advantage, it's a break even, you know, whereas Destiny Dealer calls from top deck, so it's also, it's technically a straight up +1. So this one is a bit different because it's not just like, you know, it doesn't get you that +1 technically, but it does, you know, put that card from your hand onto the field. But that on hit pressure means that you can basically play around with your opponent in a way that, you know, if they choose to keep guarding it, it's like, sure, you didn't get your cards locked on the board, but you got a bunch of cards out of their hand, which means that their survivability of your big like alter ego, Volko, Lady Fencer turn is going to be so much harder for them. So that's another thing. And that kind of like wraps up, especially looking at the new cards, why this deck is so good. On top of that, you know, we have so you have like the Burst Monk or Blast Monk, I can't remember which one it is, but it's the grade 2 that binds stuff on your opponent's field, so you can start taking out like pesky targets that they're just got sitting in the back, so that's obviously very great as well. And on top of that, you also like have some lists running Harmonix Messiah now too, because after you do your Alter Ego turn, you can reliably go into Harmonix and just do an even more explosive multi-attack turn. So that's also something to keep in mind, because you can just do even more with it, and that's also very, very great. So there's a lot of different things you can do with this deck, and I think the main points I want you to take away on why it's so strong and why it's so good is that you have this really, really explosive multi-attack combo, because keep in mind you're playing Force. So you can either play Force 1 or Force 2 to make it even more lethal. You know, the Force 2s on like the Volkovs that keep restanding are going to be massive. So it's like, you can basically just play with this like insane pressure, but on top of that, the deck draws and accelerates through the deck pretty quickly in order to actually set up that kill turns. It's just in like bad games where you brick and you really don't find anything. There, of course, it's going to be pretty hard, but in general, you don't really run into games like that often. So it's a really, really strong deck. You have the hit pressure from Manipulator as well, and just all these cool resources that the deck has. And I think, you know, coming close to the English release for this set, I think it's going to be really exciting to see, you know, what it has to offer. And it's going to be exciting to see just how good it's going to be. We've got like Thank You Fest running around, shop challenges, and so it's the shop leagues where we're probably going to get to see, you know, this deck just storm through and do great. So it's going to be really exciting to see how Messiahs does in the English format. So on that note, that's basically it for today's video, just taking a look at how good Messiahs really are. Let me put the mic back a little bit here. So I think Messiahs are honestly a really, really strong deck, very fun to play as well. It's a cool multi-attack Force deck, and I hope that you guys also enjoy it as I will as well. But on that note, that's going to be it for me today. We might do a similar one for Night Roast. I'm still debating if I want to, you know, do like a proper deck profile and like talk about every card, and then like, you know, kind of do like the deck preview format where we would like play a game later on, or if I want to do it in this kind of style, because here we get to just kind of sit down and talk about like key cards, literally like key cards, what the deck wants to do, why the deck is good, and you know, like especially when the resources are out there, and I'm linking you to the resources as well of like, you know, good deck lists and stuff like that, you know, just for the hell of it. Bam, here's a sample deck list in case you haven't already found one. But I'll be doing a deck profile for the deck when the English set comes out, so you can look forward to that too. But on that note, that's gonna be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.